Josh Alexander's the one fighting Josh LeMay in my mind all the time. Josh LeMay is the one that says you can't do this. Josh Alexander's the one that's saying, fuck you, you can. I live in the middle of nowhere. I have no cable. I can't really watch television. There's no friends around that I can go play with after school, so it's just me as an only child. It wasn't like the prototypical childhood where, you know, you get to go to soccer practice and stuff like that all the time. It was just lonely is the word. My parents divorced when I was 3 years old, and that's my earliest memory. That's my earliest memory. My mom left my dad when I was 3, but it was because my dad was an alcoholic. He was abusive and all this other stuff, and so she had to get out for her and for me. So then, you know, we go on living that one income life. My mom, you know, doing whatever she can to make ends meet, and us living in a basement apartment. And like, as a 3 and 4-year-old man, you don't know. You don't care. If I get to go to the playground after school or something, it doesn't matter. But as you get older and you go to school and the kids are making fun of you for, you know, wearing old shoes or, you know, not being able to afford a new t-shirt that doesn't have a hole in it, or you don't have like the best snacks at lunch, then all of a sudden you know you're poor.
Josh, growing up, he had a different kind of family life than most, I'd say. It's not something that we talk about often. I think there were some things in his life stopped him from being a kid, from being, you know, like an actual teenager.
My mom later remarried to my stepdad, who was a functioning alcoholic. My real dad would be abusive with me on weekends. So like, I told him, I was like, can you be my dad? And he's like, oh, I'm not your dad. I felt immediately like kind of betrayed by him. So like, I never trusted him. As morbid as it is, I would probably go back in time and honestly tell myself to give up on my dad. I would just say give up, because like, I spent 20 years trying to change my dad. And there was a good 3 years in there where he went to like AA and he got sober, and he was my hero. He was the best guy on earth for those 3 years. But then to just watch him fall off the cliff right back into, you know, alcohol and whatever else after that was probably even more heartbreaking, because, you know, I saw what I could have had for those 3 years that he was sober. My dad's gone now. He's passed away. He died 5 years ago. I've wasted a lot of my time and energy trying to help and fix other people. And I think that's because I grew up in that environment. And I've recognized that now in the past like 4 or 5 years. And that's why I use my energy on me and the things that I care about and the things I can control.
I think the loneliness that he felt in his, you know, early days really affected having trust in people. Just whatever he wanted to do for himself. There was no support, so he had none of that.
It was just this never-ending web of like having to like be deceitful and all this stuff, and it's just completely exhausting. And that's what led to me, like, I think, becoming like an overweight kid and like self-medicating with food. When you live it, you never realize what's happening. It's life. You're just going through the motions. And that didn't help me in school become any more popular or find any more friends. So then the anger just grew. And the anger turns to depression, because eventually you can't just hit people. I would come home crying and, you know, begging my mom for something, like, put me in hockey. We can't afford hockey. Put me in something so I can make friends. You know, we can't afford any of that stuff. So I'm like, okay. Randomly, she comes home one day with, and it was so random because wrestling had never popped up on television. It was never talked about in my house, anything. She came home with a WWF magazine. And I remember looking at it, asking her why she got it for me. She's like, I don't know, it seemed cool. Like, I saw some kids looking at it in the store. Like, I opened it and I read every page, man. I found wrestling, and through wrestling, I found friends. That was like the first thing that gave me some identity at school. So I found the first sense of community. It wasn't until much later that I actually looked at myself and thought I could be a pro wrestler. I went to a Raw or a SmackDown show in the ACC, and on the walk out from it, I got handed a leaflet for UWA Hardcore. And I remember I looked up the website for this, and they had a message board, and I found this whole community of independent wrestling, and through that I found a school. I saw the school was an hour from where I was going into university, and I just wanted to like see a ring. I wanted to see what like a ring felt like, because like to me it was always that like crazy sense of mystery of like, what are they falling on? Like, what do the ropes actually bounce you off? So like, I paid for that. I never had an intention of being a wrestler when I paid for this. I just wanted to like go see what this facility looked like.
You know, wrestling can give you a sense of belonging. I think that's probably what brought Josh towards wrestling. He wasn't in the real social circles, and I think this gave him something to focus on. And when you're looking for something and then you find something that you're really good at, then, you know, it's great if you can dive into it.
I took my first bumps and everything went amazing. And it was like this shot of confidence that I'd never had in my life. Like, I love this and I'm good at it, and like I can do it more and more and see if I get that feeling more and more. It's like I was addicted instantly.
There's a drive to the introverts, and I would put myself in that category, that you focus so much on the task because you're less outgoing and loud and boisterous. So when you focus that hard on the task, you tend to get really good at the job.
April came around and my residence room was starting to get emptied and I had to move out, and where was I gonna go? I ended up living in my car for a month because I couldn't afford to go anywhere else, but I didn't want to leave where my training school was. So I would like sleep in my car, go to the gym and shower and change, go do a laundromat, you know, I'd do all that stuff, and then until I could save up enough money so I can get an apartment and rent a room somewhere. So like it was a non-stop obsession, passion, whatever you want to say, but like it was getting that shot of confidence. I would definitely not be the same person I am today without any of that confidence that I got from pro wrestling. The sense of responsibility didn't start immediately. I had to learn the hard way of like, I went to the Hawk shop and sold all my belongings for gas money to get to shows. I would do whatever it took to get to this booking where I wasn't gonna get paid, but I got to wrestle. So I got to have like that instant euphoria or whatever it was from that 10 minutes I was in the ring. So that's when I had to pick myself up, get a pair of work boots, and find a job. I became a tire technician, which is one of the most disgusting, hard jobs on planet Earth. And, you know, I did that because that was the only job that would give me Fridays off, so I could be a pro wrestler. And through that, you know, just it snowballed and snowballed and snowballed, and hard work didn't seem hard anymore because at least I got to do what I love doing on weekends.
I think he loved the fact of being able to get lost, right, and get away from all the things that are bothering you in the real world. He'd found something that people were saying, like, hey, like you're pretty good at this. He's feeling good. He's getting that reaction from that crowd, and that becomes an obsession almost of its own, right? That feeling is a rush. You want it all the time.
My first year of wrestling, I did 106 shows myself.
When you're developing as a wrestler, one of the things you really need is you need reps. You need ring time. You need to be going out there. You need game day experience.
I used that figure and I talked to other wrestlers. I was just, my first year of wrestling, I did 106 shows and their jaws hit the floor because some people might only get 20, 30 shows. That's the one thing about the Ontario indie scene is I got so much experience and nothing beats experience.
Thankfully, the Ontario indies, you know, really kind of blossomed as far as for the amount of shows. One of the downsides is they're very unorganized at times, and that's where you have to be disciplined.
Maybe it's that this is like the first real community I ever had. I felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself in the Ontario indie scene. I want to make it easier on the next group because I know how hard it was for me, and I know how hard it was for everybody else. And like, you talk to other people that were in the same shoes I was in, and you say, man, it was so tough for us. And they'll be like, yeah, but like we had to go through it and we had to do it, so the next generation would have to do it too. I'm just like sitting on the fence of being like the one that just wants to do it the other way and maybe try it that other direction, because I owe a lot to just the entire community. The Canadian indie scene, the Ontario indie scene specifically, like made me who I am today.
He would have a game plan in there, and I've been working on this, this, and this. Now I'm going to execute it in the match. So really, and that's one of the things that makes wrestling so unique, is so much of it is you have to be self-reliant. It's really a testament to his dedication on it.
It was like spring, summer 2014. Myself and Ethan Page as Monster Mafia, you know, we were starting to get booked in Ring of Honor. And we go out there, we open the show. In that match, in the finish, I take a DDT, and I've taken 1,000 DDTs at that point, but I just took it weird. And when I went down, I felt something go. I went home, and it was like 3 days later, I was in the worst pain of my life.
Josh Alexander was really starting to make a name for himself and really starting to have what looked like was going to be his opportunity to potentially break out, you know, to get his break, as we say in the industry. And that's when, you know, fate steps in, and that neck injury of his, and it was, you know, all like taken away from him.
I just sat there for like 3 weeks thinking I hurt my shoulder. In Canadian healthcare, it took me probably 6 or 7 weeks to get an MRI to see I'd actually broken my neck. And I had still continued to wrestle that entire time. I had the surgery, and honestly, 2 to 3 weeks later, I felt fine. And then March 2015, I fell on my head in a weird way, and it happened all over again. So you have to think, I just re-injured my neck before I'm supposed to be done rehab from the surgery. So I'm walking into my surgeon's office telling him I hurt my neck wrestling. He sends me for an MRI, they check the MRI, and he thinks the next disc is gone. So he thinks it's C4 through C6. He's like, there's no way you can ever wrestle again. I just felt like completely numb.
When you have something like that, I mean, the first reaction, I think almost universally, is, I mean, you have a good chance of falling into depression.
I think the thing that like got me emotionally the most was that like I've never been respected for anything. You know what I mean? Like there's never anything that people look at me to for advice, or like there's nothing I was good at. Pro wrestling is like the thing that like people come to me for advice. People respect my opinion. People like look at me as like someone that leads by example, and like I can help them out that way. And I love helping people. Like that's like the one thing I truly enjoy doing. So like I was just like, that's gone.
Josh's wasn't like a conventional, like by the books, you know, fracture. You know, his left him in a situation where at the time they were concerned that, you know, regardless of surgery or anything else, he was in a position where he was vulnerable. And he lands on his head, he lands the wrong way, he could be paralyzed.
It's one of those pivotal moments where you go one way or the other, and it either breaks you or it drives you further. And clearly it didn't break him, but there's that moment of, you know, do you go all despair and you know, self-pity and sadness and fall apart, or do you realize that it's important enough to you that you push with every ounce of your being? And Josh clearly pushed with every ounce of his being.
In pro wrestling, people break their necks, and you never hear anything about it. It's just they come back, they're fine. But yeah, I went in for my second neck surgery July of 2015. I woke up from surgery, and I look down, I see something like blood down my chest. I was more confused than anything, and it wasn't until the doctor showed up the next day and I asked him what happened, and he said, oh, you know, we didn't have to fuse the second level, so there's no neck collar, it wasn't as bad. And like the second he starts saying this stuff, like I knew what he was gonna say before he said it. I can definitely wrestle again. I just did this huge retirement tour, like, oh my God, like I'm just devastated. And then he goes, yeah, you know, you can wrestle again, but just do rehab this time. Like take 9 months and just do rehab, please. I thought I was done. I come to terms with this, you know, even though I wasn't happy about it. And like now, here it is right in front of me the day after surgery that you know, it's an option again. I didn't tell anybody any of this for probably 6 months, because I wanted to be okay not coming back.
Josh keeps his personal struggles to himself because that was probably what he was taught. He keeps it inside, and sometimes it's hard for him to talk to me about it.
Honestly, there was part of me that was extremely exhausted with pro wrestling. It wasn't the physical toll, it wasn't the injuries, it was the grind of like debt that I put myself in.
When Josh told me that he's able to come back to wrestling, I had a big smile. I said, well, that's great. Like, you love doing this, right? And he's like, well, yeah. And I said, okay, so what, you know, he was still kind of humming and hawing about it.
It weighed on me. I didn't want anybody to think I was a liar. Right? I didn't want anyone to think I was taking advantage of anybody. Like, because I had gotten so much support, like both, you know, financially from people buying my retirement shirt or coming to that retirement show. My reputation, like that respect I'd earned over the years as a pro wrestler, that means a great deal to me. So I didn't want to betray any of that and betray the trust that I'd earned with everybody else.
It killed him inside. But I said, the workers, they won't feel that way if you were to come back. They would be so happy to see you come back and do the thing that you love to do. And they know you love to do it because they know that you're good at it. You know, I don't know if that helped his decision, but either way, I'm glad he came back.
Breaking my neck became the most motivating thing that ever happened in my life, because prior to breaking my neck and injuring myself, I always say it, I got by on just God-given ability and like this random talent that I had to be a pretty good pro wrestler. But I didn't check all the boxes. I never worked hard enough to check all the boxes. Like, you need to have the look, you need to have the presence, and then you need to be a good wrestler and do all this stuff. So like, I was missing those two things always. And breaking my neck and, you know, thinking I lost all this, that's when it became the most motivating thing that ever happened to me.
When he came back from his neck injury, it's the old saying, right? You don't know how much you care about something until it's taken away. Well, I think once it was taken away from him, and then he was able to get an opportunity to have it back, I think he had that appreciation on a deeper level.
You have a friend here.
I've been in several long relationships over my wrestling career. I was engaged at one point, and every time I would always be served with an ultimatum of it's me or wrestling, and nobody ever won. So I had to meet the right person. I had to meet somebody that, you know, wouldn't give me that ultimatum, that someone that understood.
I've been a wrestler, a traveling wrestler as well, so I get it. I understand.
I could not do any of this without my wife. She understands all the pitfalls and like the letdowns and all those things that you have to persist through, and that's why like she's my biggest supporter, because she knows everything that it took to get there.
Yeah, I understand the whole support thing, and I try not to tell him too much that how bad we miss him and everything, and just so he doesn't feel bad for being away, doing something that he loves.
Other people I've dated in the past have thought that I'm just playing. They don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. They think this is a charade to like make myself, you know, satisfied or to feel like a big deal, when they don't see that like I could actually make something of myself with the talent that actually goes into it. My wife sees all those things, and that's why, you know, she picks up the slack with the kids so that it takes stress off me, so that I can, you know, put time forward to wrestling a little bit more, and like excel a little bit more, so that later on in life I can give everything to my children. You know what I mean?
It's the wrestler in me, because I know the hustle. I know the hustle that needs to be brought on the table in order to get anywhere in wrestling.
Have fun wrestling? I will. Are you gonna come watch me? You gonna cheer for me?
When I see him out there traveling, doing his thing, I'm so happy for him.
Daddy's okay. Yeah, I cut my finger. Did you like it? You liked it? You loved it? Okay, we have to come again then.
I get this weird privilege of being like every father's their son's hero. Like that's a thing. But I get to be like a superhero when I put my gear on and my boots on for my kids, and it's a weird thing to like think about, maneuver, and I still haven't figured out all of it, but it's just like I get to live it right now, so it's super cool.
Our son Jet is absolutely obsessed with wrestling.
Is that amazing? Where's your mouth guard? Where's the mouth guard? Where's your mouth guard?
His dad was his first favorite wrestler.
But you show me on the ring, Dad?
You gotta do your entrance.
When Josh comes home, he'll talk about the match that he just saw. He'll say, yeah, Dad, you remember when you did that car crash on so-and-so wrestler? And he'll just want to talk about his dad's wrestling weekend. So he sees Josh as a superhero.
My entire life, I can't remember how early it was, but like I just never wanted to be a father. You know what I mean? I never wanted to have kids, to have that responsibility, because I'd be so worried about letting them down or doing anything that, like, feeling any of the things, making them feel any of the things that I was made to feel. But like now, I'm happy I'm a father. It's certainly a lot of pressure and responsibility, but like anything in my life, I'm up to the challenge, and I'm enjoying everything along the way.
Hey, you want to chop him? Chop him!
There's like a happy balance there, though. There's me being selfish in the sense that I'd have to tell pro wrestling to leave me alone so I can be a dad and a husband. And there's also the sense where I have to tell my family this is what daddy has to do because this is what I love to do, and one day I want this to be the reason why you go to college. That saying of if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, like that's what pro wrestling is for me. So if I'm gonna live the best life I can, where I'm gonna be happy and my kids can see me not being miserable every single moment of my life, like this is what I have to do.
When you get good at wrestling in Canada, the next logical step becomes, let's try to get a contract with a big promotion in the US, except you're not allowed as a Canadian to work in America unless you have a work visa, which is very expensive and difficult to get.
Wrestling could be anywhere. Like it really could be. The problem is, for some reason, none of these promotions in Canada get the play they do in America.
And while the scene in Canada is growing, has a lot of great talent, there's not nearly as much money to be made.
Americans can come up here and wrestle, no problem. It's completely fine. Canadians cannot cross that line on a map somewhere and wrestle legally. So it's that much tougher. And it takes a lot of sacrifice, because if a promoter wants to book you in America as an indie wrestler from Canada, they're taking a chance knowing that you might not show up because the border might say, no, you're not going. Around August 2016, I was going to America and I got pulled in at secondary at customs, and they went through this whole thing about how if I ever cross for pro wrestling again, I'm banned. At that point, I'm just like, I'm only gonna be wrestling in Canada. And I had to come to terms with that I most likely would never get noticed. At that point, I decided to become the best wrestler I possibly could be within the confines of Canada, and maybe I can make this scene better for everybody else. And through that, Destiny Wrestling gave me so many opportunities to get in the ring with people that were, world-renowned, so that I could show that I belong on that stage.
Destiny Wrestling is our home. George Iceman really gave him a huge opportunity there. George believed in him, and George wanted to give him, the biggest matches.
Week after week, wherever I ran into him, he was among the best there's around. If you looked in that locker room, you're like, okay, like there's the guy that I would want to be in the ring with.
Josh, no matter where you put him, he doesn't try to cheat his way into being a good professional wrestler. He works real hard, not only in the ring, but also out of the ring, in trying to understand professional wrestling, in trying to elevate others through professional wrestling, which I think is one of the best quality you can possibly have.
Honestly, my sole goal has been to put Canadian independent wrestling on the map, on the worldwide scale.
I walked to the back, and you hear the microphone and over the PA, like Josh Alexander come to the ring. I'm just like, that never happens. The match just ended. And I hear it again. I'm like, oh, that's Scott's voice calling me.
I knew he was trying to make something. I knew he couldn't do that with that barrier, both exposure-wise and actual physical barrier at the US border. To get that exposure, you have to get across that border. And we could be part of that solution.
You're not the best unsigned talent out there in the world.
Yes, he is!
You're the hottest rising star in Impact Wrestling, and you got a 3-year mother.
It just seemed like a moment, and like from the second I got in the ring, I was living that moment for like the next 5 to 10 minutes until he slapped that contract in my chest and solidified the fact that I wouldn't have these border issues. I was going to get all these opportunities to maybe show the world, and if I am as good as I think I am, then the rest is history.
I saw the amount of work that he put in to try to be the best pro wrestler in Ontario. And so for him to get signed to Impact, it was just another person screaming at him that's not me, saying, you deserve this. This is what you're meant to do.
Impact Wrestling is significant to me because they are the first major company in the world that gave me an opportunity. And from that first opportunity, they have given me countless other opportunities because they recognize that I make the best of those opportunities.
Brought him in, expecting him to do great. Thought he would do very well. And then he excelled.
I came in tagging with Ethan Page, and we changed our name to The North now. We were previous to the Monster Mafia on the Indies for years. We had experience together. He was already with Impact at the time. So like as soon as I came in, it seemed like the most comfortable way to start. Within 3 months, we become tag team champions. And then LAX leaves. LAX, they were like the top of the mountain for tag team in Impact Wrestling before we were there. Now that spot is up for grabs, and we just took it and we never gave it back. We held those championships. It was over a year. Just looking back on that reign, being able to do that from pretty much the word go that I started Impact Wrestling, it's surreal to me. And I hope nobody ever forgets it, because we certainly worked hard enough to, you know, hopefully put that in the history books.
He came in, became a really good tag team guy. I was like, okay, here's a tag team we can rely on. And then as time went on, it was like, you know what, like this guy's gonna be probably a little something else.
I get that I'm newer in the company or whatever, but like I want to make a name for myself just like anybody else. This is competitive, like I was saying. Everybody in that locker room, even though I'm gonna do my job and I'm not gonna do anything to jeopardize any other match on the show, because we are putting on a show, not just my match. I understand that. I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure that everybody in that locker room is gonna start recognizing me as one of the best wrestlers in the world. The X Division title, that's the one belt that I'm just like, this one is different than everything. It was like the workhorse division of pro wrestling for many years.
There was no X Division before there was TNA. There wasn't a place that was willing to say, hey, you're short and you're small, so like, but so what? Like you're awesome, so you can still main event the pay-per-view. And I think that inspiration has really left a mark through this industry.
I just remember seeing Low Ki for the first time, and Low Ki standing out as being this, like, whatever everybody else is doing, he's doing something completely revolutionary. He's doing it better than everybody else, and he's kind of real. And then you see someone like Samoa Joe come in, and he does something completely different, but then you're like, he's kind of real.
Get the intensity! Go, Joe! He got it! These are the most vicious kicks I've ever seen!
They're putting a legitimacy into pro wrestling that I'd never seen really before, and they're perfecting it, making it so entertaining. When I was growing up, and I'd watch these on Wednesday nights, the X Division logo would come up and the tail of the tape would drop, and you'd be like, we're gonna see match of the night, guys. Like, it didn't matter who was in the match. So that's what the X Division title means to me. Like, it means you're gonna see awesome wrestling, you're gonna see a match of the night. And throughout my entire career, that's all I've ever cared about. And I've been criticized for it. I've been made fun of for it. You know, I've been put over for it, but like, for me, that match quality that happens inside a ring, when I look at all the people that I grew up like idolizing, I feel like they cared about that stuff. The way that Samoa Joe and Low Ki and AJ Styles and all those guys motivated me to like even look at pro wrestling and be like, maybe I can do this. If I can do that for just like one person out there with like my reign through the matches I've had in this X Division title reign, then that's the best thing I can do.
He's not your conventional X Division guy. He's a little bigger, doesn't quite do as much flying, but as we've always said, it's not about weight limits, it's about no limits.
When I won it, you know, there was kind of a flood online of support for people that like kind of blew up supporting me and all this stuff, that have been on this journey with me this entire time, so they know what that means. They kind of switched course a little bit, and like I was able to solidify myself a little bit more.
The X factor with Josh is the unbelievable precision, you know, intensity that he brings as a wrestler, like a pure wrestler.
I'm supposed to go out there and steal the show in Ultimate X, the first one in 2.5 years here in Impact Wrestling, an Impact exclusive match that I've looked forward to competing in since I was 16 years old and saw it for the first time. I mean, I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. definitely looking at this as, ever since Rebellion when I won the X Division title, it's been like this crazy kind of momentum of my career finally like hitting its stride after 15 years. Now Slammiversary, the first show we have with fans live on pay-per-view, I get to go into Ultimate X, and I'm just very thankful for everything I get to do.
And finally, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, he is the defending X Division champion, the walking weapon, Josh Alexander.
There's so much unpredictability involved. We had 6 guys in that match, so there's like an added sense of unpredictability.
Alexander has them all, and we have an amazing Ultimate X match.
All these factors come into play that you can't control until you're out there. I might not ever volunteer myself to do another one because it's pretty brutal.
Mentally, I feel great. I got through my first Ultimate X, and physically, I feel like I got hit by a truck, which is exactly how I imagine I should feel after an Ultimate X match. Congratulations. First thing that always goes through my head, no matter what, when I'm walking to the back after a match is I gotta text my wife and let her know I'm okay, because I know her and the kids are always worrying about the worst. Text my wife, let her know I'm alive.
I've had this brought up to me by people who care about me, that, you know, the toll the style can take on my body might affect me later on in life.
It's certainly a style that potentially can lead to a shorter career. For as much as Josh is hitting somebody, somebody else is hitting Josh the exact same way. And if you're even gonna stand in the ring with Josh, you better bring it. Because if you don't bring it, he'll bowl right over you.
I've never felt him shy away or seen him turn down anything because it would be, you know, too painful or too difficult. I've only seen him step up into it.
I could either live my life and do everything I want to do the best I can do it, and I'm taking care of my body as best I can and paying way more attention to it than most other people. And sure, I might need those surgeries one day, but I could also do nothing and need those surgeries one day without all that fulfillment and all that other stuff.
The style that Josh Alexander uses, he's got a defined period of time to make his mark.
I've started building my name at least. I don't think I've ascended to the heights that I'm going to ascend to. And I don't think if I veer off course right now and try to change styles or change my presentation, that I will continue on that same course. That's it. And I don't think I would get as much fulfillment out of it either, because this is the identity I've kind of created for myself, and I enjoy it. As much as it might take a toll on me physically, but I don't think I have an option.
I discovered Japanese wrestling as a teenager. It was a shock to my system. It was that thing I needed to see, that pro wrestling could be done in a certain way or presented in a certain way where it was legitimate.
Josh Alexander's style is so well suited for Japanese strong style. And I think it's clear that, I mean, he's taking influences from that, but the fact that he's got such a strong wrestling base, right? And, you know, Japanese strong style, like if you've came up in that style, like you've been on the mats, you've grappled, you've worked your way up.
The whole style of the Canadian strong style, it's all based off things that Suzuki has started in his career and perfected.
いやみんな人はどっか弱いところがたくさんあるから強くありたいんじゃないかな。まあアメリカに来て強いという話を聞いたから。
Minoru Suzuki is one of the baddest dudes in the history of wrestling, in the history of mixed martial arts. He is a tough dude who can tear people apart, can hurt people like snapping fingers. He can snap bones.
I would say every time I step in the ring with somebody, I want to make sure that I earn their respect. That's a mutual thing that comes out of it. This is just, pressure's higher this time.
Strong style, 強く生きるかな。
To It's an opportunity to see how you stack up against one of the greatest of all time. Like, the man's legendary as a presence that I think is respected around the world. It's a privilege knowing that you'll be one of the people that get to get in the ring with him.
There is nobody who, when Josh Alexander hits somebody, goes, that's fake. Because it's flesh on flesh, it's bone on bone, it's there, and you can tell that it's there.
It's like when you're a good wrestler, you excel at wrestling. And again, the Japanese style is very, very solid, fundamentally based wrestling. So he would obviously adapt well at that.
Can't please everybody, but someone like Suzuki, I think it's just, you know, go out there and show you can compete, show you have heart.
It's a watershed moment. Besides just winning the match, just being in there, toe-to-toe with Suzuki, strike for strike, that's baptism by fire.
To see me get in there and compete shot for shot and go toe-to-toe with Suzuki, that puts me on a level, maybe not at such a level of his, but it's the starting off point to get to that level, to show that I can compete with guys like that, and then it just builds my name.
The unspoken truth is, Suzuki endorsed Josh Alexander that night by going out there, by standing toe-to-toe with him. That's as big an endorsement as you can get in that industry, because that's one of the most respected legends around, saying, yeah, you're at my level.
I mean, it feels like it's a dream or whatever. It feels like something that would never materialize, never happen, never in a million years. And to be in the position to do the match, that's business as usual. But like the fact that I'm going to be on the marquee, main eventing for the World Heavyweight Championship, it's a lot to take in for Josh LeMay.
Bound for Glory that year was probably a real pivotal moment for him, in that he's in that pressure spot. You know, you're close to achieving the goal you've always wanted, which, you know, is a lot of pressure.
In a few hours, I will be main eventing Impact's biggest pay-per-view, Bound for Glory. Everything's been turned up for the past couple days. My nerves, I don't usually get butterflies. Like, it could be the opportunity, it could be the match, it could be the stage, it could be all that, but it could also just be because this is the first match outside of Nashville in nearly 2 years. I can't put my finger on it.
So much more than probably what everybody thinks it means to Josh. It took Josh 16 years to get here. I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm nervous, I feel sick because I'm so excited. He's been through so much, physically, mentally. He deserves it all. Hi. How you feeling? Okay, one last surprise, okay? So that's your flag. There's a W etched on each side. So proud of you.
Pro wrestling is such a strange business, but that belt, that does signify success. That's our gold medal. That's what it is. I think for the most part, it means that you're going to be in the history books forever. You're going to be on a short list of people that are remembered forever, which is even more important. What goes into like the trust that they have to have in me, that independent wrestling promotions don't have to, is that they have to trust my character as well, outside of the ring. They have to trust that I'm going to be somebody that can be looked at and people can be proud to say they're a fan of me, or proud to have me as a champion, that I'm going to lead by example. I think of all the people that I watched. To think that I'm going to be walking out and challenging for that championship now, like I'm in one of their shoes now. Like I can't even digest that.
Every single match, I'm nervous. Even if the simplest little move, you know, it could just injure you. Josh has gone through a lot of injuries, so He's given me a lot of reason to be nervous, but there was never an injury that stopped him from wrestling. He would just keep going. This is his sport. Wrestling is Josh Alexander.
Moments before I walk through the curtain, I'm literally thinking about every possible thing that could go wrong in the next, however many minutes I'm going to be wrestling. I try to think about all that stuff and obsess over it so I can prepare for anything that I face.
Bound for glory,
You earned this. What's happening tonight is something I never dreamt possible. To me, that's something worth worrying about, worth having anxiety about. I don't usually sweat the little things, but this is monumental to me. I never go into a match expecting it to be physically demanding. It's just something that happens in the moment.
One. Josh. Go. Go, Josh.
Certainly tonight, I'm willing to risk all physicality and, drain myself emotionally, physically, mentally, for this opportunity. Went away, and just it was relying on everything I've learned over the past 16 years, and it felt like it went great.
World champion,
I knew I'd crack if I looked at my wife and my son, and I just tried not to.
Give him the belt!
That's when I broke. That's the thing I'm gonna remember forever. It's burned into my mind. I built it up so much in my mind, the anxiety and the nerves and everything, thinking about everything that could go wrong, like I was saying.
And that's part of the wrestling business, letting you down here and there. And anything can change. You don't want to say it and then it not materialize. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to. If I put words to paper, if I say it out loud, then it might not come true. It's kind of a weird, superstition, but it's true.
Opportunity to show the world the style of wrestling that I like, that I've perfected, and it's okay to do it in Canada for the majority of my career, and now like I said, I got to show the world. It's crazy. It's okay. Yeah, that was. Scott met me with a hug right as I walked through the curtain to the back, and he hugged me real tight, and he said it was a hell of a title reign. Which is typical Scott. That's how Scott shows affection. He's a smartass. I was here a day early, and I spent all day yesterday alone, and the stress and the emotions of this opportunity and stuff, like I was saying, it was overwhelming, and I've never had people I could trust and rely on, and I've built my own family. That's the first thing, and just being able to share it with them. Maybe it's because of my upbringing. I never think I'm doing good, so I always try to do better. If that makes sense. This is just a stop along the way. It's something awesome that happened, and I'm very fortunate that it happened. And it's tough to believe there's going to be anything better, but just keep trucking along and see what happens.
Josh's time here in Impact Wrestling, to me, has shown he's one of those individuals that can really transcend just being an athlete that has their flash in the pan of their time. He's one of those ones that they should talk about. And when you look at making a Mount Rushmore of Impact Wrestling 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, I think when it's said and done, Josh Alexander will be up there too.
The second you think you stop learning in pro wrestling, you should just quit, because you're done. There's people out there that are 150 million times better than me. And for me to get to that level, like, I have to wrestle people like that. I have to wrestle in more places. I have to keep pushing forward. I want to be remembered forever as one of the best Canadian wrestlers of all time. That would make everything I'm doing along this journey mean even more.
It's harder as we go because the wrestling industry runs so fast now. And there's, quite honestly, there's getting to be so many great Canadian wrestlers out there that, you know, you're going to have dozens and dozens of names included. But I think if you're even in the conversation, it's a success.
One of the hardest things for a wrestler to do is be patient. You have to have faith in the process, and you have to just keep pushing. And you have to do that knowing that that chance may never come. And we always say, this is a business that isn't fair. Wrestling, like, didn't choose you. You choose wrestling, and it doesn't owe you.
No, I do not feel fulfillment. Professionally, when I look at my career, there are so many things I haven't done that I'm capable of doing, that I know I'm capable of doing. And this is not like an ego thing. And I know what I could produce if given the opportunities. So I know that those opportunities don't come all the time, and they may never come. So I can't hang my hat on worrying about that. But if they ever do arise, then I know what I can do.
Having to sit there and wait, but be ready when you get your opportunity is one of the hardest things to do.
There you see Josh's family, beautiful wife Jade, his son Lucas. It's amazing. Josh talked about the message he wants to send to his sons.
Scott D'Amore signing me to an Impact contract was essentially me getting picked first. Like, that was the first time anybody ever said, hey, I'm gonna bet on this guy, and I wanna make, you know, Scott, and I wanna make everybody that believed in me proud. A lot of the people have invested in me to the point where I feel like I owe them. It's not about being popular, it's not about being liked. I want to be good at this. I think the people that you share the ring with are the ones that are truly the judge. You know, I've always just wanted my peers to respect me. I mean, people talk about the guy. I want to be the person that Impact's, like, slaps a bumper sticker on and, like, parades around the world as the person representing this company. And, you know, I think I'm ready for that. No, I know I'm ready for that. So me becoming, you know, Impact World Champion, that's that bumper sticker. That's that perfect thing for me to represent this company. I need this for something to bring home to my boys, something to bring home to my wife, to show her that, you know, me coming back after breaking my neck was even more worth it.
Hey, good luck tonight.
Oh, thank you. Today's the big day. Didn't really sleep last night. You know, it's that pressure that you feel. But, you know, it's good.
This is a big moment for Josh, and Jen, and Jet, and Lucas. Like, this is a moment that will be part of their family forever.
I don't have kids, but Josh has two. I couldn't imagine doing anything cool enough in this world to have even my own child idolize me the way that Jet does Josh.
I don't have any memories with, like, my dad or my mom really either. Like, I don't think I was involved in much of what they got to do with their lives and all this other stuff. But, you know, I think it'd be cool. Like, the stuff that I think about is, like, what Jet's gonna think later on in life when he looks back and he sees that he was a part of this and stuff like that. And, like, hopefully, you know, it's still cool to him then. I just want my son to have a different experience than I had. For me to be able to give that to him, like you say, it just means everything.
The payoff is happening right behind you, because there is Jet in a full Josh Alexander singlet. That's the payoff right there. The entire time we were in COVID, Josh drove from Toronto to Nashville. Do you know how long of a drive that is? It's so insane. Because he had another job that he had to do to provide for them, so my man drove to make sure that he was always back home in time, so that way he could get to this moment where he doesn't have that job anymore. He's on the top of the mountain, and this is happening behind you. He's got a family to provide for, and I know how much it means to him to have wrestling be the catalyst for him doing that for his family. More than anyone on the Impact roster, Josh deserves it. It means the most to him.
I thought he seemed quite focused, although I think, just looking at his face, it's like there was that pressure because his wife and his son was there, and it was like you could see that moment where there's a lot on this guy's shoulders. And, you know, there's times in the day where I sat there going, it's like, all right, how's he going to handle this? Because this is a lot of pressure. It's a big event, and there was a lot on him.
Before I got hurt, before I broke my neck, I would have done everything to self-sabotage to this moment right now. The pressure builds on you so much that, like, anything, my back hurts, my knee hurts, oh my God, I don't think I can do it. You know, I don't think I can do it. I'd be counting myself out left and right. And like now the attitude's completely changed and shifted. Maybe it's, you know, a big part of it is because, you know, Jet's here, my wife's here, and I have like this support system I never had before. You know, now I have more people rooting for me in my corner. Maybe that helps too. About 10 p.m. last night, my family all fell asleep, and I looked up at the ceiling and I could just feel my heartbeat to the point where you could hear your heartbeat ticking like a grandfather clock in the hallway. And yeah, I didn't sleep too well, but you know, like I've always said, I welcome the pressure, the adrenaline, all that stuff. That's the stuff that pushes you through and you know, makes it that much more special.
I think for the first time in his career, he truly is starting to believe, I am the best wrestler in the world. And once you start getting that into an athlete's head, then you've really got something special.
5-0 minutes till doors.
I take a lot of pride in being part of the, you know, Canadian wrestling community. The part of me that thinks that this is like the biggest deal is that if I'm world champion, maybe a kid will see me wrestle from Canada and hear I'm from Canada, and that'll motivate him to think that maybe this is possible.
We're here tonight in front of a sold-out crowd with a main event of two guys that weren't in WWE. They made their bones here. And that, to me, that's truly special. I think today is a day that I hope that Josh puts any doubts out of his own mind, like he has so many of ours, about how talented he is. I truly stand here and look you in the eyes and say, Josh Alexander, in my opinion, is the greatest professional wrestler in the world. And I think today, here tonight, he cements that in a lot of people's minds, and my hope is he finally cements it once and for all in his own mind.
You ready? You do great. Love you.
There's something to seeing someone in their natural environment, for lack of a different term. You know, you see a musician or you see a comedian on stage, it's like, that's where he belongs. And Josh stepping out there, it's like, yeah, that's where that guy belongs. It's like, that's who he is.
He's living his dream. Wrestling's let him do that, and it's letting him provide for his family. He takes that very seriously, and he puffs that chest out, and when he goes to the ring to validate that decision. He's going out there to be the absolute freaking best at what he does.
Watching Josh at Rebellion live, so many of my emotions just poured out. I was nervous, I was proud, I honestly couldn't believe that this was actually happening.
The analogy, it's like some guys don't get warmed up till they get hit a couple of times. Josh is a bit like that. It's like when you get in there and feel that physicality and they bring the aggression to you, it changes a gear in you. And Josh is one of those guys that once you see him get smacked a few times, you see that fire and it. Screw you!
I am never gonna put you in the hospital with a chop. You're never gonna have a scar because of a chop, but it'll sting for 2 seconds. So if that's the worst thing that happens to you, I don't care how much you complain. So I'll chop you as hard as I can and make this a fight. Because I want that emotion out of you. The crowd wants that emotion out of you, and if you're not giving it to me, that's how I get it.
It's the drive of the competitive athlete. Like I can see it in his face watching him, whether I'm watching him live or on the monitor. It's like you can see it when he gets behind that guy and clasps those hands. It's like, all right, he's in his zone right now. We're good to go. There's a point where you have to feel the job. You can't think it, you can't see it, you can't analyze it, you gotta feel it. You could feel it. It was coming together and peaking, and I think that's where true fan connection comes from. As a fan, in that moment when you start feeling excited at the action you're seeing on the success of Josh, and he's feeling it too.
It's momentum. It's just like, as the match keeps going, oftentimes, like, you get into it and you're in the flow of things and adrenaline's pumping. There's just this momentum that builds as you go and go.
And that's where you truly make an emotional connection with your audience, because the audience and the wrestler are on the same page emotionally. And there's an emotional connection there because there is an energy and an intensity that everyone feels. We share something together in that ring when that bell rings that no one else does. I don't care if you're 10 feet away, 30 feet away, you may get little bits of it, but you don't share that same thing. And that touches people.
Actually hold that piece of gold, you know, that thing that you saw on TV all the time when you were a kid. It means a lot, and again, it's validation.
As the world champion, able to get down on his knees in front of his son, say, here it is. That to me is powerful.
Family's important. There's a connection there, and there's just this joy in him that it's like he gets to not only achieve his dream, but share it with his son, and I think that's fantastic.
7 years ago, I had my second neck surgery, and I thought, you know, I was never gonna wrestle again. And then I met this woman, and she's been with me every step of the way, and that internal battle I was talking about, I probably would never win that if not for her propping me up and pushing me.
Someone who I genuinely like and respect has, you know, achieved something that means a lot to him. But I was just so genuinely happy for him that, you know, it's nice when the good guy wins now and again.
In a business where we talk about all the time, you might not make it. Here's a guy, never been to Japan, didn't get to work for the cool US Indies, and he just freaking grinded out on a cold Canadian indie scene, and he still made it.
The high, it's just when I come back through the curtain. And everybody's there. It's a complete like helplessness. It's a loss of all self-control. You know what I mean? I'm fighting it. I'm fighting it right now, but like I'm not winning this one.
Shit, Mike.
think he thoroughly enjoys being one of the boys, and I think he takes pride in carrying the flag for our company and being, you know, our locker room leader.
When I say I love pro wrestling, I love everything to do about it, and I love everybody that does it with me. The people that are in the trenches with me, traveling, doing this week in, week out, hoping that one day they can be in my spot, for them to take a second and come and, you know, give me that love. That's what gives me like the crazy high. Wrestling's a weird profession. You have all these people, especially in today's age in wrestling, want to act like success out there on a show means nothing. Winning and losing doesn't matter. And all that matters is what goes into your direct deposit every 2 weeks. And I feel bad for those people, because those people are just chasing something that they're never going to get any satisfaction out of.
I'm sore. I'm physically, mentally, and emotionally spent. I'm ready to ice my body and fall asleep for a few days.
By overcoming the kind of challenges that pro wrestling gives you, it makes everything else seem possible. When you haven't had the easiest upbringing, it's very easy to give up. So when you finally see this challenge and it's like, okay, this is going to be extremely difficult, and I'm going to stumble along the way, but I'll get there eventually, that really changes a person.
I want to be comfortable with pro wrestling. I've obtained a level of comfort to me that makes me wealthy. I'm able to support my family comfortably. I'm able to do what I love comfortably. I might not be rich to some people, but this makes me rich.
One of my favorite things when it comes to Josh is watching him grow as a human being.
Mommy and Daddy got you a present made.
He wants to be that father figure. He wants to be that type of person for his family and for everybody else around him.
There are times when I'm spending 4 hours in a hotel room to fly to a show while I'm missing karate and play days at the trampoline park. As selfish as this profession is, in that sense, something like this is something I can point to my sons, to say that it was all worth it. That means a lot to me.
He's really starting to earn that respect within the industry. That's gotta be a great feeling, and that hopefully helps push out those thoughts that'll creep in sometimes for every athlete. You know, is this real?
Josh Alexander's the one fighting Josh LeMay in my mind all the time. Josh Alexander's the one pushing to achieve, and Josh LeMay is the one that says you can't do this. Josh Alexander's the one that's saying, fuck you, you can't. It's a constant battle, but Josh Alexander's been winning a whole lot more in my recent years. And I think that's why, you know, Josh LeMay has found fulfillment and success too.
Hard work can pay off. The good guy can win. And just because, you know, you run into a wall now and again doesn't mean you have to stop fighting. And I think, you know, that's a great message for everyone.
Pro wrestling has 100% made Josh LeMay a better person.
He loves and has a passion for professional wrestling. And professional wrestling has given him his life.
It's my first love. It's my obsession. It's the only thing I've ever felt good at. It's the only thing that's fulfilled me. And I'm addicted to pro wrestling.